what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below this video. Most importantly though, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Anthony and Ranty. How are you both doing?
Yo yo.
Doing good.
Excellent stuff.
I'm sure you messed up that intro then.
Why?
Yeah, I think you did.
It doesn't matter.
Because you were talking about the Flat Earth Debate and clicked the link on the bottom of the panel and I thought, hang on a minute, it's not a debate, is it?
Yeah, it's a special edition, you're right, I did. It's just force of habit. There is no link.
Yeah, there's no link, no one's coming in. If your name's not down, you're not coming in.
Were you on auto mode there?
I was just an autopilot.
Yeah.
So, what have you got to tell us?
All right, so
Yes,
I've had numerous people messaging me recently saying like, how is it that everybody else has started their courses and you've not mentioned anything yet? And the answer is because my course hadn't started. Basically, I've done my first lecture today, and I've found out some things that are really pretty cool, and I wanted to share them because, well, basically, the ballers are not going to like it. So I went down today, and when I say down. You can interpret this either way, because when you go to the capital, right, they say it's like you go up to the capital. So if you're going down, it makes you think you're going away from the capital. But it's a weird terminology. So I'm going to say down just to confuse the ballers that are trying to poison the well for me, just because they're not going to find out which place it is. Anyway, I went for my first lecture today. Drove down there, took me ages. Traffic was like roadworks and whatnot. Parks my car, find somewhere to park it that's not going to get me a ticket. And I goes to find this room. So finds this room and gets there bang on time. I mean, I couldn't have timed it any better. If I'd have had a bit more traffic, I'd have been stuffed, but gets there bang on time. And I goes into this room, and I kid you not, the room was not what I expected. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know whether it was going to be like formal, informal, big, small. I wasn't quite sure, but anyway, I'm there. I'm outside this room, and we all get invited in. And there's only 13 of us in the room. And I sent Nathan a couple of pictures, and how can I do this? Nathan, you might have to present them, because I want to show the room. This room is like it was.
Just present as normal. So just screen share, and I'll bring your screen up. It's easy. Just screen share as though you were screen sharing normally.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten. All right, let me open them up.
When you're ready, I'll stick your screen up.
Sorry, did you say you're doing a masters, Anthony?
Yeah, it's a masters. Yeah.
Not in Skype though.
I'd forgotten about screen sharing. Let's try it.
Primary thing we do whenever we discuss anything on Skype ever.
Right, check this out, Ranty. Now, I don't know whether can you see this, Ranty?
I can, yeah.
Right, this is what I walked into the room, and the room's basically a square room with windows in it, right? And these little UFO-looking things are all dotted around the room, randomly scattered. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's that? Last time I went to any kind of college, there was like a table and a chair, and I've got this thing that looks like a UFO. And I'm looking at the other people, and they just go and get on it naturally, and I'm like, what the hell is that? So anyway, I goes and sits on it, and I managed to get my ass in there. Like it was a bit small, but I had to squeeze in. But nonetheless,
no way. I need photographic evidence that you actually got into one of them.
Yeah, I did. It looks dead small.
No,
honestly, it looks dead small on the photo, but I promise you, it was it was like that. Anyway, whilst this is outside, whilst I was waiting to go in, And I've got this geezer over here with his phone. He's clocked me, and he's thinking, "What the hell's this dickhead doing?" Anyway, I've got these two, and these are in the room with me, and this is basically the outside. While we were waiting to go in, and the room's behind me. I've got my back to it. So basically, these were the photographic evidences that I decided to take for the purposes of just demonstrating a little bit of what we were doing. And yeah, we went in and I sat down, found my seat, and I'm waiting for everybody to come in. And then the teacher comes in, and she introduces herself, and basically she's just done a doctorate, obviously in law, and she starts talking through how she's going to be running this module. And she says what we are expected to do, and we are encouraged to ask questions, feel free to interrupt, and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, it's been a few years since I'd done anything formal education-wise. The last time I went into any kind of like university establishment, I was with people all my age. I mean, I'm 38 now, and it's been a while since I've been to any kind of university. So it was like, I'm going to go in there as probably one of the oldest people, if not the oldest person. And I actually had that dilemma that women have, where you have to decide what clothes are you going to wear, because, I mean, most people would say, well, just go in a pair of jeans and a top. And I was thinking of doing that, but I decided not to, because I didn't want to look like the students that were there. I didn't want to look like I was one of them. I wanted to go in there with a more smart, casual look. So I just put a pair of pants on and a blazer, and then a t-shirt underneath, like what's it called? Not a polo neck t-shirt, a turtleneck t-shirt. So it was smart casual, but it wasn't grabby. Anyway, teacher basically makes us all introduce ourselves and say what we're there to do. And I didn't realise that not everybody in that room was doing the same course that I'm doing. There was 2 people other than me, so 3 in total, that were doing the same course that I am, but everybody else was doing similar but not the same. So we're all on a different tangent, but this part crosses. Anyway, she starts describing about what she expects from us and how we're to progress through the course. And basically, the first task that we've got to do is basically tell her what we want to do, why we want to do it, what we're hoping to achieve, and discuss with her the content of what we're going to do. So she goes around the classroom and she says to everybody, right, so what's your name, where you're from, and what you're here to do, like. And eventually she gets to me, so I tells her who I am, and I said I'm 38. I live in like Liverpool, Manchester way, so I've had to travel here today. And then she basically said, so what have you got any ideas for what you want to do your work on? So it starts getting political now, right? Because I've got to do the overlap with law, so it's not necessarily about the physics. It's more to do with where the law fits into it. So I obviously said, I think that the education system that we get taught from the national curriculum from the age of about 10 or so is not necessarily based on facts. It seems to be based on a consensus rather than facts. And the overlap with law is that I think that we have the right to be taught the truth, the facts, the truth, and something that we can all validate, or at least we're able to research it later on in life, like I'm doing right now, and get to the same answer. Because let's be honest, we should not be having a flat earth debate. We just shouldn't even exist. It should be the case that everybody, when challenged or questioning it, should come to the same answer. So the likes of me, Ranty, and Nathan shouldn't even exist. It should not be the case. These things should be so clear cut and black and white that we just should not exist. And the mere fact that we exist means that, well, this is a bit of a bad situation for education, because I consider myself to be quite intelligent in terms of the education system, and I consider my peers in Flat Earth to be equally as well educated, not necessarily in the education system, but certainly on the topic that we're talking about. So I start to talk about and describe what I want to do, why I want to do it, and what I'm hoping to achieve. And because I already had a predefined position that I wanted to do, I could tell that she pricked her ears up, and she started to narrow down the questions, from starting off with broad questions and narrowing it down to very like the minutiae kind of stuff in about 5 or 6 sentences, 5 or 6 questions. And she came back to the question, well, where does this overlap with law? And I said, well, the Education Act tells us and others what their obligations are with regards to education. I said, and that's what I'm here to argue. I'm here to critically analyse the current thinking on a topic of my choice. And I said, and I'm pretty certain that the solar system, the way we're taught it at the age of about 10, isn't actually fact. It's a consensus that everybody seems to believe. but it's not actually factual. And I'm pretty certain that we should be getting taught the facts. And I'm not persuaded that it's a scientific consensus is enough. I might be wrong. I have to do the research, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to question and like critically analyze the current thinking on what we get taught at the age of about 10. I say, because we all got taught the same thing. Anyway, the outcome that I learned today, and much to the ballers discussed, is that when I submit this final application, this final like piece of work, the key thing that I picked up from today is that if I want to, and in this case, obviously I will make sure that this happens, I have the choice, and the university will do it for me if I wish to, which I will be doing, for it to be published in a law journal. And once it goes published in the law journal, in addition to being marked by the exam board, that just means I don't have to publish it, but they will do it for me. Now, that's great, because that's the peer review part, is like not just peer review by my peers, but peer review by like the law profession itself. And obviously there's going to be that overlap with so-called science. And basically, this is where I'm going to really get the ballers all tied up, because I'm going to poke the bear towards the end of it once it's submitted, and then I get the link for it to go on the journals, and it gets released as a journal. I'm going to basically point the finger at the ballers and make sure that they all go and view it from the website. And then the minute it starts creating internet traffic, I don't know exactly how it'll work, but I'm pretty sure that things that start trending will start to gain momentum. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that I am literally going to be the cat amongst the pigeons. And if that is the case, then this is going to be quite interesting, because they do all the work for me. I do the work, but they publish it all. And that means that my life's a lot easier. But bottom line is, I had my first lecture today, and I got to have the brief sit-down chat with like 10 or 12 other people, and it was really constructive. And I was done about 45 minutes early, so I managed to get home before the rush hour hit. But basically, I've had my first lecture. I really enjoyed it, and even though I'm 38, I wasn't actually the oldest person that's in there. But I did manage to have the back and forth, and the teacher pricked her ears up. And when we started talking about it, it dawned on me that she was quite interested in what I'm doing, because she was like interested. She was curious with what I was suggesting, and although she doesn't quite know exactly what's going to happen, I've certainly caught her attention, and I could tell by the way she was asking questions that she was interested. And that's basically as much as what I needed to do for today. But the key point really is, it's going to be the university themselves will publish it in the law journals for me on my behalf if I wish to, and obviously I will do. And when I asked that question about peer review stuff, like the journal side of it afterwards, because I actually asked her, I said, who is this like document being written for what audience? She said, you're writing it for yourself. I said, no, but who's reading it? I said, where does it go? Does it just stay internal within the university, or does it go elsewhere? And she said, no, it goes. It'll go into the law journals, unless you tell us not to. It'll be published. And I was like, great. Now I would have expected I would expect most students not to bother with it, because I mean it's academic, right? It's not really that important. Who cares what people really think? But I think that if I was able to do this, I think this is going to be a proper cat amongst the pigeons, and I can't wait for it to go. So that was basically my day in a nutshell. But there was lots that happened, and I'm pretty sure that Ranty and Nathan will ask a couple of questions, and I'll just pick randomly in chat if I see questions in chat that I can answer as well. But it was a really cool day. So that's where I've done what I've done today, and I didn't get to listen to virtually any of the show apart from the last 10 minutes, and then I lost it. But that was it basically.
Cool.
Did you want to go first with some questions, Ranty?
Yeah, can I see that chair again?
The space pod.
I want to see the chair again.
Oh man, the space chair. I mean, I call it a
himself
space
into
chair,
the back
it's not
door.
like anything I've ever seen.
So you've slipped yourself in through the back door of the education system. And what does Ranty want to know about the chair?
I want to know about the chair. Definitely want to see the chair.
Yeah, I mean, when I walked into this room with the chair in it, I mean, I swear on my life, I looked at it and I thought, what the hell is that? So, okay, so this is the outside. This is where I was waiting. The room's right behind me. I've come up these stairs that are down here, and then the room's right behind me. So I'm just chilling, waiting for the lecturer to appear. And I walked into the room, and there was about 15 of these, but we only used about 10, or maybe, I think it was about 11 or 12. There was a couple left over. And shout out to Matt Taylor.
It's every time, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, these little chair things, they look dead small, and they are quite small. And I looked at it and I thought, where do you write? There's nothing to write on. I mean, this little arm thing, it's not much wider than your arm. It's about as wide as an A4 piece of paper. And I took an A4 pad with me to write on, but that's it. So it's like you don't really have that interaction with people. You have like separation from everybody. So you can't really socialize. Like normally I'd expect to see like long benches, like chairs, and everyone kind of sits near each other so that you can talk to each other. But no, you were absolutely in isolation, and you couldn't really talk to anybody because like unless you sat right next to them, like uncomfortably in somebody else's personal space. But what was really interesting was the group dynamics. There was a couple of I think let's say there was 10, and let's say that there was 5 like white people, and there was 5 black people. And when I say black, I don't mean like half caste. I mean like proper black. They were like immigrants from different countries, could speak English, but not really good English. The standard of English was okay, but not great. But what I noticed, I mean, I went and sat right in the middle of the room, right in front of the teacher. I was there. I was like, it was the middle of my world for me. I was right in the middle. I was geocentric. And everybody revolved around me, kind of thing. But I noticed when I looked around, once the room populated with people, I noticed that all the whites were on one side and all the blacks were on the other side, and I didn't expect that. I thought it would have been totally intermingled, and it wasn't. It was segregated by their own volition. It wasn't like the teacher made them sit in any particular way. It was just organically, but was divided. Which one went one way, one went the other. It was really bizarre.
So what
Are you still there, Ranty?
What did the teacher grill you on then? So you said that she pricked her ears up.
Well, she asked like everybody to introduce themselves, and then once she'd introduced yourself, she went back to each person and said, basically, you've got the ability to be creative with your writing. You don't necessarily have to do something that is totally law based. You can do it on like a hobby or an interest, because there's no reason for you not to. Do something on a topic of your choice. So she started going around the room, and obviously, like somebody said Formula One, and somebody else said reading, and somebody else said something else really blasé, and like not nondescript. And I said, I want to critically challenge the current thinking on the education system, specifically with regards to the obligations of the state to the individual. And when I spewed that out, she was just like, "What?" And because she was expecting a one-word answer. So I said no. I said I'm really interested in the rights of the individual, and I said I want to know what is the expectations in law of what the children get taught, because it's all right saying that the parents have all got to get the kids on time and put all the obligations to the parents, but what are the obligations to the state? Because we should be getting taught stuff that that is credible, and obviously this flat Earth debate exists. Whether you like it or not, it's here, and people are asking questions, and rightly so, in my opinion. And when I started to quantify the reasons for why I wanted to challenge the state in terms of, the education system and what we're actually being taught, she started to narrow down her questions. And the more she started to narrow the questions down, the more I felt that she was not actually like attacking me. She was genuinely interested, but she needed to make sure that there was that overlap in law. And she concluded by saying, well, what is the law that you're going to be challenging? And I said, it's going to be to do with the obligations of the state. Like, what are we going to get taught? I said, I don't know what they are yet. I haven't researched it. I said, but I know it'll be there somewhere. There'll be rules that say that we should all be getting taught, well, what? Best practice, current accepted science. What I don't know what the standard would be, but whatever we should be getting, quote, taught should really be factual. And it shouldn't be the opinions of or the scientific consensus of. It should be fact. And if it isn't fact, we should be taught that it's not necessarily fact, and there may be other explanations for what we're living in. And I didn't get told that, and I'm pretty sure nobody else in this room right now got taught anything to do with there being potential or opposites, because I didn't know about Tycho Brahe before Flat Earth. I mean, I might have heard the name once, twice, the odd occasion, but I didn't know that there was an alternate model called the geocentrism position, and that's basically what I think that we might not be being taught the truth for. We should be taught. I think that we should be taught the alternatives. There may well be alternatives, and it's not necessarily fact that what we're teaching you, it's the best guess that we've got. And that's basically when I started itemizing that. She started to, well, her words were, I'm not quite sure which mentor I should give to you. I'll have to have a think about that one. Meaning that I
Neil
don't
deGrasse
fit into
Tyson.
the straightforward pigeonhole.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have contacted Neil deGrasse Tyson to see if I could get a conversation with him, but obviously as part of the academics, but I haven't had a response yet. I don't think I will do, if I'm honest, but I'd like to think I will do. But I have tried.
Did she quiz you on your angle in terms of the legal aspects, though?
Yeah. She wants to make sure that there is a legal crossover, because she doesn't just want to be in critical analysis. She wants to make sure that there's a law angle on it. And I said, well, it's going to be to do with what the obligations of the state are to the students, not just the students to the state. Yeah, we've all got to be there on time and stuff. But what's the state? What's their obligation to teach us? Surely the state's got to teach us the truth, right? Or facts or whatever. And then she was like, we're going to have a chat about that. Make sure that we're going down the right way. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Let's see how this goes, because this is where it's going to get a bit awkward. So it's interesting anyway.
So are you going to just, pick her brains for where you might look for the right legal information, or how's it actually work? How are you going to get that link? Because that's the most critical bit, right?
Yeah. I know where the link is already. I think most of the links to do with the Education Acts themselves. It's just knowing which one, where to look specifically. But there's going to be, how am I going to get that link? That's where I'm going to have to ask her to help. Well, not necessarily help me, but show me the resources that we've got within the complex to be able to establish these links. And obviously, I now have the access to the electronic resources, and everything seems to be good. And that's basically a case of it's working my way through it and picking out the actual law themselves. I mean, all the UK laws are all enshrined within something called Halsbury's laws, and Halsbury's are it's like the Bible. You start with the contents at the beginning, and they're all books. Literally, like there'll be a book that's like broadly speaking on education, for example. There'll be a book on police. There'll be a book on there's hundreds of them in all aspects of life. And you start off with the contents page, you work your way through different broad topics and narrow it down further and further until you get to the point where you find the law. And whatever the law is, I mean, I'm hoping to find an old 1862 Act or something like that, where it says that you must not teach blah, blah, blah. That hasn't been repealed, that's still considered good law. That'd be great if I could find one. If it doesn't, it'll be based on what the current law is, and wherever that law is, that's what I've got to try and find. But now I know that I've got access to the where to find the access on the databases that I've got access to. Now I can do it, and it's just a case of spending a bit of time on it and finding out what the laws are and who makes them and that kind of stuff. But I've got it now. I know what I'm doing. So I just got the direction that I needed today to be able to put my face in the room, say hello. She knows my name. She's interested. And it's a case of just making sure that I start liaising with her, just to, smash this off. By the way, the deadline is September next year, but I'm hoping to get it done by probably December, January, because I mean, there's not that much work involved when you're already quite far down the rabbit hole from my perspective in Flat Earth. But it's just knowing the law bit and then writing the conclusion out at the end. So It's all good.
So shout out to Earth is Seriously Flat for the super chats. So the other students, at some point, they're going to presumably prick up their ears too, because she's going to be quizzing you on what you're actually going to be covering, and you're going to be saying, well, space is fake, or words to that effect, right? Did anybody else prick their ears up?
No, to be honest, I think that they were all asleep. I think that they were totally docile. I didn't see any reaction from any of them apart from the teacher. She was giving the most positive reaction, and I don't know whether it was because I was very specific with what I wanted to do, or whether it was because she was genuinely interested, but the rest of the room were kind of nonchalant about it. And it was when people are just asleep, they're asleep and you can't wake them up. That was how I felt that the rest of the room was, they just saw it as just another topic, didn't realize it was critical or conspiratorial in any way. They just saw it as another topic. Oh, right, you want to do the national curriculum. That sounds interesting. Not. So I don't think they realized anything about what I was saying, but the teacher definitely switched on and she pricked her ears up. I noticed it when she said, I'm not quite sure who your mentor is going to have to be, but I'll have to have a think about that one, meaning that I don't get pigeonholed very easily. So can't wait.
Thanks just said a fluoride coma. I thought that was hilarious, actually.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was weird because one of the girls that was in there said that she wanted to do hers on Formula One, and I was like, really? Wasn't what I was expecting. And then the teacher started asking, like, well, what elements of law do you think might be getting into Formula One? And she's like, contract law for the contracts of employment, and then like intellectual property rights for like trademarks and patents and stuff like that. So they're quite predictable, but it was interesting that a girl wanted to do Formula One. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to take today, other than the teacher definitely pricked her ears up. But the outcome is that it'll be published in one of the law journals. I don't know exactly which one it will be, but obviously I'll get a link for it, and it'll be there once it goes in. It'll be there, and you'll all be able to read it from there. But that'll take time.
That's only if you're approved for the course, though.
No, I'm already on the course. It's whether providing it doesn't fail, of course. I mean, it could fail on merit. I don't think it will fail on merit because if it gets weak on something, I'll be able to add more to it because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. It's just a case of finding out the only weak bit is how much of an overlap is there in law, and is there enough of an overlap? But there will be laws there that are important that I'll be able to work on. I just got to find out what they are, and I'll be able to do that in the next week or so, and then start really building this structure up, and then basically passing it to and from them to be able to get them to like start proofreading it.
I mean, the last time you described this to me, when you were describing getting the connection bit to the law, you said that when you did it in '99, it was a case of going through a very broad and expansive set of laws, and then you sort of I pictured it like you were walking down different aisles of the library, and one's got like 200 books on, all with very broad terms, and then you move along one aisle and you've got another load of books that are a lot more specific, and you said at the end you get down to just one book that's referring to whatever's about to come into law in the very near future. Is it still the same, or did you not discuss this?
Well, that's Halsbury's laws, and I'd referenced it before, and that's the old manual way of doing it. They've now got it online, which means that I don't physically have to trawl the library, which just makes it easier. But that was out when the last time I studied it, but it was quite new, and I don't know whether it was considered to be a bit too new for it to be like reliably credible. But now it's definitely the case that everything seems to be online. But I have that access now, and that's really what I needed to know. I needed to know what access did I have, where was it, and when can I get to it and use it and whatnot.
That's not really what I meant. I mean, yes, I expected it to be online now. That's the modern way. But what I meant by that was, is it the same incremental stages that you have to go through to narrow down the law?
When you're not doing it manually?
Regardless, no. I would imagine it's no difference. It's just there's no physical walking up and down the aisles of a library, right?
No, I think that you would get the up-to-date version straight away, and you wouldn't have to check to make sure that it was up-to-date or anything lined up for future changes. I think you just get it immediately once you find your relevant area, because obviously manual is quite time-consuming. But if they have people that are legally qualified people that are continuously updating these things like to the day, so it's like always bang up to date. So I think that it saves me a lot of time. But your depiction is right. That is the way you used to do it. You'd start with like a general contents page. It would be a book, and then there would be shelves and shelves and shelves of them, and there'd be loads of them, and there'd be really old ones, really, really old ones, and you'd have to go to like the early volumes, and that's where you'd find the oldest stuff. And if the early volumes had your relevant piece of like law in there, then you've hit the jackpot. That's what I was hoping for. But like I say, like when it's been done online now, it's not like that anymore. It's already up to date. So apparently, so you'd have to double check it with the manual version. But I'm sure if you manually went through it, you'd get the same result, because that's what they're paid to do. That's what you pay a lot of money for the subscriptions for. But the point is that they should overlap. Now I'll be checking it anyway to make sure that it is, because you get marks for doing that legal research by doing it the old manual way. So when you're describing your methodology for how you got to the answers that you got to, I'll be checking it anyway, just so that they know that I've done the correct procedure. Because you do get chunks of marks just for doing that, let alone the content of the work. You get your marks for doing your legal research, and that's part of the main part of the course. Like, so it's just easier, quicker and easier doing it digitally than it is to do it manually. But yes, it is still like what I described to you last time. It's still there. You can still do it that way.
Okay, so you'll get the information immediately rather than having to find it and show your process, but then you'll go back and do that process anyway, just to not double check, but to show that you've got the correct methodology to ascertain this information if it was only
And the
directly
reason
from the network?
The reason for that is because if you were to go into legal practice in a law firm, not all law firms sign up to electronic databases. Some of the older folks that don't forget, a lot of people are still practicing law in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They're still old school and they won't have access and they won't pay for the subscription. So you need to know both and demonstrate both so that you're able to get the marks for both, because you will get marks for doing both ways and you'll miss marks if you only show one.
Oh, right. Because if you were going into practice, it might be the case literally that they have an enormous library there.
Yeah, manual style, yeah. And you need to know how to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. So what else?
So
Anything else?
it will be published. It will be in a proper law journal. It will be peer reviewed. It will be open to scrutiny. And the best bit about it, there won't be a single baller that will be able to challenge anything that's in there because none of them are legally qualified. So yeah, sure, it might get critically acclaimed within the law profession itself. It may not do. It may go unnoticed. It may get critically acclaimed in physics. It may not. It may get unnoticed. But the point is, it will be there. And that's really what I needed to make. Well, that's what I wanted to know the answer to. And the answer is yes, it will be externally published and it will be credible. And that was one of the key things that I wanted to find out today, and I did. So,
one thing that confuses me a little bit that you said, if you want to be. So you said you could publish it.
Yeah, you don't have to.
It will be published if you want it to be.
You don't have to.
Isn't it? What do you mean you don't have to? Isn't it by default published?
No. You get the right to veto it. You don't have to publish it. You can just keep it internal if you wish to. There's no requirement for it to be published in a journal of any kind. And I think that's because most people don't really want it to be open to critical acclaim when it's academic by nature. But in my case, I want it to be, because I see myself as the cat amongst the pigeons. I want to go in there. And if I get 100 people saying that it's a load of shit, so be it. At least it's getting critical acclaim and peer review. And then we can then, based on the, because what'll happen is, the way that they'll challenge it is that they'll write an article against it in the first place, and it'll always be the appeal to consensus, appeal to authority counters. But there will be, I'm hoping there will be a reaction. The chances are it won't. Nothing will happen. It'll just go into the database or data bank of like all the other people that have done stuff, and it probably won't even make a magazine at some point, but it'll be referenced and it'll be there. So it's like, just depends on the ballers really, I suppose, because if they start seeing like activity go into it, and words and whispers start happening, hey, someone's done something about the solar system or whatever. Like I say, it may not go anywhere, but on the other hand, it may be enough of a cat amongst the pigeons, and it'll start with the ballers reading it and creating the traffic. But that might be what's needed for it to work. And if it does work, that might be cool for us.
A little bit though, because the purpose is to get it published. I mean, what happened? Now you've got your foot in the door, which you didn't know would happen. I mean, Ranty said earlier, depends if you get on the course. He's on the course. His foot's in the door. He slipped under the radar, and not only that, the teacher's interested. She's obviously recognised there's a little bit of what's the word, mystery about what you're telling her.
Yeah, a little bit of devious. And just for anybody wondering about the money side of it, they haven't sent me the invoice yet. But when they send me the invoice, I'll show a copy of the receipt for when it's paid, because obviously you'll get a receipt once you've paid the money. So they haven't asked for it yet, and I did expect them to have asked for it before I started. Common sense told me that it would have already been dealt with by now. It hasn't been dealt with yet. I've not had the invoice yet. But don't worry, when they ask for it, I'll pay it straight away, and I'll publicly show the money is no longer in my account. It'll be gone. But yeah, you don't have to publish it. It's your choice. I asked specifically, did she publish hers when she did her PhD? And she said, no, I didn't really feel the need. She said, because she did hers on insolvency. And she was basically like, no one's really interested in insolvency. It's quite a niche area. She said, I didn't really feel the need for it. But you would feel the need to publish it if and when you felt that yours was going to be like contentious in some way, either like leading the way or challenging the current thinking, which is what I'm doing. So I'm keen on doing it. But I would have when she asked me, "What, like, am I thinking of doing that?" I said yes. Her reaction was kind of blank, but I would expect her to I would expect her to think that most students would not want to publish it, because why would you bother? I mean, what's in it for you, right? It's academic. But you, like I say, you would want to publish it if you wanted to get feedback from like overlapping industries or whatever. Peer review, if you want peer review, and that's exactly what I want. Because if you think that there's something in there that's wrong, well, let's see it. Let's see the evidence that proves that it's wrong. Because it should be the case that I can find it, And if I've got access to numerous legal documents as well as numerous scientific documents, it should be the case that I can find these proofs, these evidences, these real world facts that we're being taught are actually true. And I can't find how they get the distance to the sun. Yeah, sure, radar and Venus transits and all that nonsense. But the reality is, when you look into it, you don't actually get credible responses back. You get a story and it sounds believable. But when you actually look into it critically, you have to, like, it's like Cassini and Huygens when they were doing the transit of Venus and Mars parallax. Don't forget, Christine Huygens assumed that Venus was the same size as the Earth. And then that assumes that Eratosthenes was doing his maths based on a sphere that he assumed. So it's like an assumption based on an assumption. And when you realize that, yeah, sure, your credible story does still sound good. But when you realize it's based on two assumptions, then all of a sudden it's not good anymore. And there should be corroborating versions of the same event. And that's what I'm going to be doing. That's challenging the current thinking on, what we're taught. Because we should know that if Christopher Columbus discovered America, we should be able to find out dead easy who it was that established the distance to the sun. We shouldn't get different people from different time periods with different techniques getting similar but different answers. There should be one bloke that's credited with it because he was the one that was closest first. And that's not what you get when you start looking into the distance to the sun. And I think that's ridiculous. Christopher Columbus is found within seconds when you start looking for who discovered America. When you discover, like, who invented the Dyson vacuum cleaner, for example, you get a bloke's name. These are key moments in life, and the distance to the sun's one of those ones that we should all know immediately where that comes from. Yeah, but try researching it.
Christopher Columbus didn't find America.
If you Google it...
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is this is a perfect example of modern day history being incorrect. It's now transpiring that there is so much evidence, and even things like the History Channel and Discovery and things like that are reporting that people from the Knights Templar in the 14th century and the 13th century landed on, like, Nova Scotia.
I totally agree. I'm not saying that Christopher Columbus did discover America.
I know,
obviously.
This is a perfect example of you say who discovered America, who was the first European to go to America, blah 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 blah, and they say, yeah, Christopher Columbus, but it's wrong. And
I agree.
even though like Discovery Channel history and things like that are now putting it into the subconscious of people by saying, well, actually, the Knights Templar went there in the 13th and 14th century, and we have all these other people going as well. We've got proof of this, right? It's a way of them dumbing down the revelation. So it might be 20 years down the line that they reveal, well, you know what? Christopher Columbus didn't actually be the first person there, yeah? But right now, history says that he is. In 20 years, that might be different. It's the same with the flat Earth.
Sure, I totally agree, but my point is not that Christopher Columbus discovered America. My point is that if you search who did, that's the name you get. Well, wouldn't you think that the 93 million mile sun, I mean, most of us were taught that. I don't know if Ranty remembers it, but Nathan, do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember being taught that.
I remember being taught that. Do you remember, Ranty?
I do.
You do. So wouldn't you think that whoever it was that did it first with the right set of physics or maths, wouldn't you think that guy would be like inscribed in history as the first person? But try it yourself. Try researching where they got the distance to the sun. And there's numerous citations for it. And yeah, all right, some of them are similar and whatever. But the point is, there is no like collective consensus to who did it first, and why that guy didn't get credited is the reason why I'm suspicious, because it should be the case that you get Christopher Columbus if you look for the 93 million mile sun. It shouldn't be disputable, but it seems to be obfuscated. Science appears to have obfuscated who got the distance to the sun first. Why? And basically, you can't seem to validate or verify it, even if it's true. So it's like, well, how do you know? And that's the reason why I'm asking. But that's only one example. Obviously, there's like, how do you have a gas pressure that it's basically housekeeping. I know we all joke about how boring it is at times, and we were like, oh, come on, let's get past it. But in essence, it's really important, because if we keep asking those questions, it should be the case that we can find these answers, right? Because this is the basics of the solar system. The solar system, we are taught at the age of about 10, has got key criteria to it. And we are all taught these things as fact. And it doesn't appear to be the case. We should, I challenge anybody to go and find who did it, who did the 93 million mile sun. And you'll all get different answers depending on where you end up when you start researching it. And that's the reason why I'm doing it, because I think that we're being taught a scientific consensus devoid of fact, but being taught as fact. And I'm sure that I'll breach what the law says. We should not be getting taught scientific consensus as fact. We should be getting taught, in my opinion, or as will be my submission, that we should be getting taught these are the best thoughts that we have, but there may be other explanations, which then should plant the seed with people to go and look into it. I never got taught that. I got taught these 93 million milestones were absolutely fact. Well, I'm not so sure it is. So that's the reason why I'm doing it.
Let's go back 50 years. And if you ask anybody 50 years ago, what were they taught in school? What was the general consensus without the internet, right? Who was the first person to discover America? What's their answer? What's everybody going to say?
Christopher Columbus.
And now, even people in chat, I'm seeing a lot of people that have mentioned different things like Chinese settlers and stuff like this that, and the Vikings that have gone across. So these guys are already clued up. These guys know their history. That's, this is normal people like us putting stuff onto the internet and educating people, and then other people coming to the same conclusion and putting all the heads together and getting a consensus with facts and evidence, and then it becomes well known over the internet, and then the big corporations or the big people up in charge who run like history and discovery and stuff like that, then they need to make programs that introduce this new evidence in a way without actually saying that their evidence was wrong with Christopher Columbus. So they say, oh, well, other people did visit America before then. Yeah. So it's a way of dumbing down the revelation. So this is what the internet has brought us for its good and its bad, but it's actually brought everybody has a bit of information, right? Yeah. And the more that people share this information, the more stuff gets revealed. And this is what I think it is with the flat earth. It's exactly the same. So I know you just off the hand said, oh, Christopher Columbus, but it was a perfect example of how history that is in the books, recorded history, is actually wrong.
Okay, I'm going to read one of the messages from the chat. So, at Sleeping Warrior, have you heard of Ebenezer Bleach? He would be a good research point as it directly relates to a flat earther using the Education Act in the 1900s.
Really?
That's from...
Just do me a favour, read that again. Who was it that said that?
Gleam. So he says,
just read his message again, because I had the dog scratching on the door. Hang on, just let me let him out, and then read it again. Go on, out. I'll let him out now, and he'll want to come straight back in. Right, go on, read the message again.
Slick, super professional. At Sleeping Warrior, have either of you heard of Ebenezer Breach, Breach? He would be a good research point as it directly relates to a flat earther using the Education Act in the UK in 1900s.
Wow.
Ooh, there we go. How's that?
How on earth do you know that, Gleam?
He's not going to reply. He's not here. He's in the chat.
I'm hoping he does reply, because that's, I mean, somebody write that down, because that's the name I'm going to have to look up.
Ebenezer Breach.
His research. That's his answer.
Well,
yeah, in other words, he's not going to spoon feed it you, mate. You've got to do some work for your master's degree.
Well, I'm interested, but it helps if there's a bit of a link there somehow, to work it out. But this is I've only found out today a new piece of research that I didn't previously know, and it speeds up the process of getting journal references massively, like almost like instantaneous, and it's for free as well because it's through the university. Now, I did know about something called the Athens password, but it's even quicker than that, and I didn't know about it today. But obviously, everybody that was in the room, bar the odd one or two, they're all familiar with it. And when I asked what this process was, and like they were all like, "What? You don't know about that? Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Come on, guys! It's been about 15 years since I was last in a classroom. It's like I'm not up to speed with the way that technology's made life at university much easier. I'm old school in terms of that, and I didn't really enjoy it then, and I've forgotten about it. But I remember the gist of it. But yeah, Gleam, if you can send us a link for something interesting there, I can have a read of. That would be really cool.
Well, I've sent you a link in the chat, actually, if you want to display what I've showed.
In Skype?
In Skype, yeah.
Have a look. No.
I was going to say, it's not something rude, is it?
No,
No.
he's taking the piss out of my chair, my little space chair.
Oh, let's have a look.
It's awesome.
Have you screen
Do you want me
shared it?
to screen share,
Yeah,
Nathan?
go on.
All right, let me...
I had a question about those chairs, actually.
Yeah, they are weird. I looked at it and thought, I'm not going to get my ass on that. I managed to, but it felt like I was back at primary school. Do you know what I mean? It felt dead small. Right, screen share. Come on. Screen share. There we go. That's my space chair.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty good, that Ranty. Did you make that, Ranty?
I did, yeah.
Quite cool, that.
Our boss. Very good.
That's you in your university chair.
Go on, Nathan. What were you going to say about the chair?
I mean, the casters looked big enough to sort of roll around and have spaceship battles.
That's exactly what you could do. You could play. That's why they're close together. Because I looked there and thought they've been playing games last time we were ever sat on them. But yeah, you could. I think there's about 8 casters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 7, I would say, casters, and they're all the heavy duty ones that you normally get in an office, double wheeled and all that.
Just need one more, and you can have a little game of 4-a-side.
Yeah, it does look like a space chair. I mean, could you imagine walking in and seeing that for the first time and thinking, "You want me to?" I mean, honest to God, this bit where your arm goes.
Wait, whoa, hang on! You're not presenting him, Nate. You're not presenting him.
I had him up. I'll put him up again if he wants me to. You want to see
Yeah,
this chair?
yeah.
There you go.
What? Show the chairs off.
They're on.
Well, I actually thought that these bits on the side were armrests initially because there's just nothing there, but they're actually the width of a piece of paper. So you can get an A4 refill pad on it, and that's about it. But I didn't realise that was like designed that way for a pad, because obviously they don't want it to be taking like shitloads of books and everything. There's no cup holders or nothing, so it's minimalist. But yeah, I looked at them and just thought these look like UFOs. They were really weird.
Minimalist. It looks like they've just brought a few and stuck them in a car or something, and then just hired an office out or something for the day. And hey presto, you've got like a university room.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. I've not seen anything like that before. I mean, like I say, I was expecting the old style, like rectangular, like desk and a normal chair. That's what I was expecting. And I looked at that and thought, where the fuck do I put all my stuff? There's an armrest, but where's the table bit? And that is the table bit. And and you can see that it's not particularly wide, and it makes you wonder how. I don't know.
Very strong either.
No, no, they're not.
How did that support you?
Do you know, they're actually bigger than they look. I know it's just, I think it's just an optical illusion. It's a bit like curvature. It looks smaller than what it actually is. Like it looks flatter than it actually is. No, it looks curvier than it actually is.
I definitely need a photograph of you in one of them. I think.
How am I going to get a photo of me in one?
Ask one of the other students to take one, or the lecturer. Ask her to take one of you.
Yeah, you can get somebody to take a picture of you, and why don't you take a selfie?
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it from the other side. I'll get one. I'll get one. I'm not sure if I'm there next week or not, but I'll find it. I'll come back to you on it. But
can you also get one of a little space battle between you and your co-students?
I might take 2 lightsabers with me and get like somebody to pose as the other one.
Don't get kicked off the course, but yeah, it would be good for a laugh.
Yeah.
Okie dokie then.
So yeah, so the bottom line is that now I know what I'm doing and I know where the resources are. Now I can start putting it all together, and they publish it for me if I want to, and I'm like, yes, let's do it. So
cool,
interesting day, and I managed. And do you know what was bizarre? I managed to get all the way back to my region where I live, right? And the traffic was free flowing all the way. Gets back to within about 10 miles from where I live, bumper to bumper, 5 mile an hour. So it's like welcome home. You can tell you're home when you get all the traffic. I was like, horrendous.
Excellent. You two happy to hang around for another maybe 5 or 10 minutes after the live show ends, just for the after show broadcast?
Sure. But what I do want to know is, did Gleam respond? You would have seen the old paper clippings before, I'm sure. I just want to know, did Gleam give a link? Oh no, he can't really give a link, can he?
No. He did say he was a Flat Earth Society guy, or someone else in the chat did.
He did say what?
that Ebenezer is a Flat Earth Society guy. That was someone else in the chat, but that was as much information as I saw float by.
Well, I'm not interested about whether he's Flat Earth Society or not. I'm interested in what his arguments were, because if it's already been done before, that makes me not that unique. But it does mean that it's been, like, it's not the first time it's been considered, right? That adds a lot of value and credit to it.
Yeah, he says just search Ebenezer breach and you will find the information that way.
So basically, if these are published, if he's already been published in some way, then that means that you've got your education, you know, your course that you're trying to push through on the law side should go through, because something else has already been published.
Yeah.
Along those tracks. I think that's what it was about. I think that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah. So I'll get back to you when I've paid the money so that you can all be satisfied that it's not a scam. I'll come back with some more pictures, and I'll come back with some more information in the coming weeks. It's just really to update everybody, to let people know that the course had actually started. I went and did it today, and there'll be more information coming over the coming weeks and months, because I'm hoping to get it done by Christmas, because I don't have anything else to do. Most of the other people are on a full-time course, and obviously they've got to do a lot more stuff, so it takes longer for them to do it. But obviously I'm only doing this one thing, so there's no reason for me not to. So hopefully I'll get back to people with more information about, you know, developments as it comes on, and then hopefully, by the time next time we speak, the money will have left my account, the invoice will be paid, and then any allegations of scam will be quashed completely. And I'll show my account. I'll show it. I'll do exactly what Greater Sapien did not.
Cool. Well, I'll probably round out the show there and say a massive thank you to both of you, but also to the audience. If you do want to see the after show bit, check out my second channel, which is just Nathan Oakley. There is a link in the info box. So yeah, as I say, massive, huge, enormous thank you to Ranty and Anthony for joining us and discussing the education that is hopefully going to be filtered in the way of flat Earth in the not too distant future, without mentioning those two words. So thank you to both of you.
Cool. Thank you.
And of course, a massive, enormous, huge thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this discussion. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do, but if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Show.
200 people were watching that then, Nathan.
I know. Good turnout.
Has Martin Leakey finished, or is he still live?
No,
he's finished.
He had a 50-minute show, and I think at about 22, he was about 8 minutes into it, so it would have ended, I don't know, 20 minutes before we finished. I don't know, I can't be bothered working out the numbers.
Have you come across Ebenezer Breach before, Nathan?
No, that's the first time I've heard of it. I had his message held in the chat for about, I don't know, 10 minutes, just waiting for the gap to say, and it's like, I can see the chat going by on my projector because I've held it on my phone, and I'm seeing him say, just tell him to search this, because he thinks it's just floated on by, and of course I have seen it, I'm just waiting for the right moment.
That's interesting. It's going to take me a week to look up what's going on with him, because I've not come across him before.
Gleam's a bit like that, isn't he? He's really good with his research.
Well, yeah, that's Natural History Museum, nhm.ac.uk, and it has by Ebenezer Breach, natural astronomer and poet. 16 pages.
You got it up on screen. Can you share it? This is going to go into the, as I said, this will go to the second audience. So if you want to say hello to the people who are seeing it, like with Martin Leaker, this will go out as a premiere. So although the chat that's currently, you know, there's people still in the chatting away, and that's being broadcast, and when it slows down, I'll just minimise it. But there'll be a new chat. So on the second channel, it'll get broadcast like Martin's was, because Martin wasn't obviously doing that live. He's just stuck it on premiere, and then, you know, so say hello to the people who are watching this on the re-up.
Hello to the people that are watching this on the re-up.
Who should we guess is in the chat? Should we? Oh no, just for fun. Right, this is obviously 24 hours time, so this is going to be Wednesday, the, what is it, 31st? Halloween, right?
Yeah.
So it's Halloween, and it is 10 o'clock at night, there or thereabouts. Who do you reckon's going to be in the re-up live chat right now? I'm going to take the first guess and go John Watson.
Ute.
Did you get the first to say Ute? Who was that? Who won? I think that was Anthony.
Both. It was a draw. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Ute, John Watson, and there's
Multi-Tom.
Leeds Rules. He's been getting around quite a lot recently. He might have lost his job or something because I've not seen him for a while, and then I see him everywhere.
Multi-Tom does tend to get around a bit. Again?
Yeah.
So when I checked for this guy, Ebenezer Breach, we've got this here down at the ac.uk. So Flat Earth Natural History Museum by Ebenezer Breach. So this is just on page 1. So I'm just looking through all this. And obviously,
I want to see about the Education Act that he was on about, because you mentioned specifically the Education Act, didn't you?
Yes. He said he was trying to get it. Let's just go and have a look.
Because that's what we need to find. If that exists, let's see if we can find it.
He said it was in the British Newspaper Archive.co.uk. So I've gone to that site, and I think we need to put in Ebenezer Breach, don't we? Ebenezer Breach.
Oh, hang on. I think he's talking about that newspaper article.
Look, if you've got it up, Anthony, this is still
it's 1E.
So stick it up on screen, Anthony.
1E.
Hang on. I'm just checking to make sure this is what I think he's talking about. Sir John Gorst, accused of intentions to teach false precepts. City of Portsmouth.
Ooh.
Accused of intention to teach false precepts. That's a search phrase that I'll have to have a look at.
Teaching false priests. What was it?
Precepts, I think it said. Precepts.
I know the word, but I don't know it exactly. Have a look. Let's look it up.
I've seen this article before. I saw it in that. In fact, it was probably how I started talking to Chris Monk. Because that was one of the things that I'd learnt or picked up on, but I didn't know it was Ebenezer Breach.
It's a maxim, rule of conduct, order, from the old French.
Well, is it
precept or percept, 12th century.
What I'll do, I'm not screen sharing that. What I'll do is I'll log on now and I'll just see whether or not that rule that he's just talked about, that was just read about then, I'll see has it been repealed, because this is the kind of old thing that I'm looking for.
Neither of you are sharing anything.
Yeah, that's okay.
Not really. It's a bit boring. I'm going to round this out soon anyway when we get to the hour mark, which is almost now.
That's okay. Well, round it out, because I don't really want to share it at the minute, because I'm actually logged onto the complex website thing, so I just want to see what happens if I look it up.
Fair enough.
Test myself to see if this works.
Well, we'll say a massive thank you again to everybody who's joined us on the Nathan Oakley channel for this premiere. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Thanks again to Ranty. Thanks again to Anthony. Both ace.
Shout out to Matt Taylor for ringing Ranty at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Every time on the dot.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!